You're listening to the Weekend Sport Podcast with Jason Pine from News Talk ZB.
Silver Ferns shooter Grace Nweke has signed with the New South Wales Swifts for next season, leaving the Northern Mystics. It makes her ineligible for New Zealand next year. She can, though, still play for the Silver Ferns this year. They have upcoming tests against England for the Tiny Jamison Trophy and Australia for the Constellation Cup in late September and into October. Grace Nweke with us very shortly, but first, let's bring in Chair of the Netball New Zealand Board, Matt Whineray. Matt, thanks for joining us. How did you navigate your way through Grace's desire to play her netball offshore next year?
Oh, well, Grace let us know that was what she was interested in doing, and you know, frankly, she wants to go and grow both on and off the court, experience some new challenges, get some new experiences, and so she has decided to do that by going to the Swifts for 1 year, and as you noted, that makes her ineligible for the Silver Ferns next year. But I guess the key bit for us was, look, this is an opportunity for Grace. There's a real commitment from Grace to the black dress and the Silver Ferns in the long term, and so we look forward to getting her back in time to lead into those next lot of pinnacle events. So maybe we've got a Com Games at the back end of 2026. Hopefully we do, and of course the Netball World Cup in 3 years' time. So
this is just the 1 year.
That's right. Grace is signed for 1 year.
Did you try and persuade her to stay?
Yeah, look, I think if someone wants to go and do this is like a netball OE, isn't it? So I did that when I was in my 20s, not a netball one, but I went and worked in New York for a few years. I think that's just an opportunity that she wanted to take, and so we get that. We respect that decision. She didn't apply for an exemption. She understands the rationale for that policy, which is that we want to keep the domestic league strong. But look, we understand that, and we wish her all the best in this, and we really look forward to getting her back and seeing how she's taken advantage of that opportunity in the 2025 year.
Did you consider offering her an exemption?
Well, she didn't apply for one. She understands that, as I said, that rationale. And if you think about those two examples of exemptions in the past, Laura Langman and Maria Palau, those were quite different circumstances. They were 100 test centurions. They had provided an extensive service and contribution to netball and the Silver Ferns over an extended period of time. So quite a different set of circumstances. Grace understood that. She was prepared to make that sacrifice she didn't make the application. She understood that she sort of fell outside those examples, but nevertheless wanted to take this opportunity. And I think it sort of fits in well from a timing perspective for us, as I said, around when those pinnacle events happen.
Would you ever consider, though, Matt, yes, you didn't request one, didn't apply for one. Would you independently as a board say, hey, Grace, you're so good, we're willing to offer you an exemption? Would you independently make that offer to her?
Well, I think the key with that is that there's a clear rationale for that policy, which is to maintain the domestic league in a strong way, and that is for us to protect and preserve that domestic development pathway. And so we that means that when you think about those exemptions, they are in a relatively narrow space, because what you're trying to do is guard the long-term interests of the game. We think that still is important. We've had that discussion as a board, where that policy is still an important one for us. And so that's why we continue to apply that. It's really important development pathway for us.
It's almost identical, isn't it, to New Zealand Rugby's stance on selecting All Blacks players from only those playing in Super Rugby. They're obviously, having ongoing discussions and they're sticking fast to their rules at the moment. Can you ever see your rules being relaxed, even a little bit?
I think it depends a little bit on what the domestic league looks like. So, that's not something we're thinking about doing at the moment. But I think these things you always keep under review. What you're trying to do is create the strongest pathway you can for our New Zealand players, for the domestic pathway, to develop great Silver Ferns and create winning Silver Fern teams.
What's your sense on whether other players might follow suit now that Grace has taken this leap?
Look, we'll just have to wait and see. The teams are going through their contracting at the moment. I think most of the Suncorp Super Netball teams have announced their players now. They're sort of going through that process, and our our ANZ Premiership teams are in the middle of their contracting and are continuing to release announcements about who's been signed and who's moved, where and what have you. So not at present, but we'll see.
And you consider the black dress still to be a strong enough reason for players to stay, or to, as Grace has, go and come back for pinnacle events. You don't suspect that there might be, and I'll use rugby as a comparison again, players who just go offshore to play, chase maybe slightly better money in Australia or maybe over in the Northern Hemisphere, and therefore make themselves unavailable for New Zealand?
Well, it was very clear from the discussions with Grace that the black dress is very important to her, and she's got a very strong commitment to that. So that's the sort of the one data point we've got at the moment on that, I think, and so that's reflected in her decision to sign for the 1 year, to do it at this time, which is out of cycle, if you like, in terms of those pinnacle events, and express that very strong commitment. So I think at the moment that black dress is a very strong. Is a very strong attraction and motivator for our top netballers.
And I guess it opens an opportunity for somebody else to step into the shooting circle, doesn't it? How do you assess the strength of those who are or will be next year in charge of filling those rather large shoes of hers?
Oh yeah, I think it absolutely does give that opportunity. So someone else gets a bit of exposure at the top level and more time with the coaches, and I look forward to that, because I think that's the opportunity that in a way Grace has provided by providing that space, and we look forward to seeing that. We've seen every year you see people, top players continue to develop and grow, and we look forward to that happening next year as well.
Good man, Matt. Thanks for taking the time for a chat. Really appreciate it.
No worries, Jason. Cheers.
No, thank you, mate. That's Matt Whineray. He's the chair of the board of Netball New Zealand.
For more from Weekend Sport with Jason Pine, listen live to News Talk ZB weekends from midday, or follow the podcast on iHeartRadio.